Welcome everyone. Now we want to start studying about linear time invariant systems. But before we study linear time invariant systems, let's briefly study about systems. Now a system processes signals. Now if we take a continuous time signal, we represent the input as xt, where t is the independent variable and the output is yt. So this being a real number, and the fact that we use parentheses indicate that it is a continuous time signal. And here is a discrete time signal. In this one, n is an integer and we are using brackets. Therefore, we know that this is a discrete time system and the output is yn. We can take many examples of systems: dynamics of an aircraft, an algorithm for analyzing financial and economic factors to predict bond prices, an algorithm for post-flight analysis of a space launch, an edge detection algorithm for medical images, and so on. So when we try to categorize these systems, we have linear systems and nonlinear systems. Also under linear systems, we have time invariant and time variant. So under the nonlinear systems also, we have the same two subcategories. Now if you take a system like a resistor, where we consider the current IT as our output and the voltage xt as our input. For example, you know that if IT is our yt, the current yt is equal to 1 over r xt. So you can see there is a linear relationship between xt and yt. Actually, you can see that yt can be obtained by multiplying xt by some constant. So this system that takes a voltage as the input and produces a current, and the current is through a resistor, is a linear system. But if you take a diode, for example, and we want to consider the diode voltage Vd and the diode current I dt, and if we plot the diode current against Vdt, you know that the relationship is not linear. So you can see linear systems as well as nonlinear systems using these simple circuit elements. But in this course, what we study include time invariance also. So what is time invariance? Actually, in time invariant systems, the output does not care what the time origin is. That means if you shift the input by a certain time t naught, the output is also shifted by that certain time t naught. So in the course, we will study about linear time invariant systems, which we call LTI systems. Okay, when we study systems, we can look at system interconnections. That helps us to build more complex systems by interconnecting these subsystems. And sometimes we can use that to modify the response of a system. Maybe a system is unstable, we want to stabilize that by connecting another subsystem to that system. Sometimes we use these techniques in amplifier design, stabilizing unstable systems, and so on. So first of all, the series combination or the cascade, then the parallel combination where we add the output from this system and this system together, and then the special interconnection called feedback, where we take the output and a portion of that and feed it back to the input. So there are two mechanisms, negative feedback and positive feedback. So later on you will study the importance of those feedback mechanisms. Okay, Now let's look at the basic properties of these systems. So when we understand the properties of these systems, later on we will relate those properties to the impulse response of the system, which we study when we do convolution. Okay, the first property is the memory of a system. So a system is said to be memoryless if its output for each value of the input independent variable at a given time is dependent only on that input at the same time. So if you take a resistor once again as the example, the output current IT just depends on the instantaneous voltage Vt at that time. See, so therefore the resistor does not keep a memory. It does not have memory. So something like this. And then here you can see yn is dependent on 2xn minus x squared n squared, but yn fully depends only on the value xn, not any values before or not any values after the instance n. Now if you take the identity system, that is also memoryless, yt is equal to xt, yn equals xn, all these are memoryless systems. But if you take this special system called the accumulator, where it sums from k equals infinity to n, all the samples up until the current sample, you can see it has memory. It remembers the previous samples. That means this current output yn depends on all the previous samples. It does not depend only on the current input xn, but also the previous values. That has memory. So if you take the time delay, so the output depends on the previous sample xn minus 1, therefore that also has memory. And if you take a capacitor with the current as the input, you know that the capacitor voltage yt is by 1 over c integral from minus infinity to t x tau d tau. So therefore you can see yt depends on the previous values of x t. So that is also a system with memory. Now if you look at this accumulator, it is good for us to know that we can write this as k goes from minus infinity to n minus 1 instead of n. Then separately write this xn corresponding to the n here. And then we realize that this part is actually equal to yn minus 1. So therefore accumulator can alternatively be written as yn equals yn minus 1 plus xn. So it is good to remember this. Alright, then invertibility of systems and inverse system. A system is invertible if the different inputs lead to different outputs. That means if you have two inputs, for example, let's take just constant values like 5, and that gives you the output, let's say 10. If the input is 6, if that also gives the output 10, you know that the system, by knowing 10, you cannot determine whether the input was 5 or 6. So therefore that system is not invertible. This is the concept that we are talking about here. Now let's see, we have the inverse system. Now if you give xn as the input and the system produces yn, if you connect the inverse system, it must produce wn, which is equal to xn, the same input. So examples of invertible systems, yt equals 2xt. So therefore wt is half yt, so that is equal to xt. If the accumulator, consider the accumulator yn equals k goes from minus infinity to n xk. The inverse system is, you know that yn from previous slide is equal to yn minus 1 plus xn. So therefore the inverse is wn is equal to yn minus 1. So examples of non-invertible systems, you can see yn equals 0. So we do not know what input produced this 0. So therefore, by knowing the output yn is equal to 0, we are not able to recover the input. And yt equals xt squared. So you know that if xt is some value, yt turns out to be its square. By knowing yt, we cannot discover which one was xt, whether this or that. So it is also not invertible. Then another important property is causality. A system is said to be causal if it only responds when you kick it. That means the system cannot produce an output without the input being there. Its response at any time depends only on that input or prior or equal to that time. The system cannot anticipate future inputs. So if you take two now to explain this properly, so let's consider this our system. If you give it x1t, it produces y1t, and if you give that system x2t, it produces y2t. Now let's consider this case. Up until t equals t0, x1t and x2t are equal. Up until t naught, then y1t must also be equal to y2t. Okay, so to show why causality implies this, we need to draw this signal to show you. But this is so. Let's draw this. Now this is the time axis. So let's draw x1t. Let's consider that this is x1t. x1t. So up until t naught, x1t is identical to x2t, which I will draw using a dotted line. I'm drawing exactly the same signal, but to show you that these are two different signals, I'm drawing it with a slight shift, x2t. Okay, now after that, these may become different. After t naught, x1t and x2t became different. But the output until t naught cannot anticipate what happened after t naught. So therefore, if you plot the output y naught, y1 and y2 up until t naught, they must be the same. I'm drawing using dotted lines. This is, let's say, y1t and this is y2t. So the fact that the inputs turned out to be different after t naught should not have affected the output up until t naught. So that is, you can see that implies causality. Okay, then stability. What is stability? To think about stability, you can consider pendulum. So now if you have a pendulum like this, a pendulum, you give it a swing, so it will swing for a little while and it will come back to the stable position. But if you take the inverted pendulum, due to a very small disturbance, it will have a large response. So this position is not stable. So many forms we choose the bounded input, bounded output stability. That means due to a bounded input, an input which is not infinite, the output must be bounded. If a system is stable in BIBO sense, for every bounded input, the output is bounded. So if you take the integrator, for example, now consider xt to be equal to 1. So if you keep on integrating it up until t, and even if xt is bounded, the output can be unbounded. So then next property is time invariance. So time invariance is a very important property. You know that in linear time invariant systems, we consider linearity and time invariance. The system does not really care what we call the time origin. If the input is shifted by any amount like t naught, the output is also shifted by the same amount of time. So this mathematical definition must be used when we actually check for time invariance. So if xt produces yt, our system is this, and if you give xt, that produces yt, and if you give a shifted version, xt minus t naught is a shifted version, it must produce the same output shifted. Same output is shifted. So similarly in discrete time, you have that. Okay, let's take examples. So the accumulator. So intuitively, when we think about the accumulator, if you just shift these inputs, what the accumulator does is it keeps on adding these inputs. If you just delay the inputs, the output is also correspondingly delayed. So therefore, the accumulator is time invariant. Now, let's take a modulator. Modulator means you are multiplying the input signal by sine t. So remember, this sine t is due to an independent oscillator. So let's do the two tests. If you shift the input, the output must also be shifted by the same time. So we know that xt produces sine t xt. So therefore, if you give the system xt minus t naught, it produces sine t x t minus t naught. But if you take this equation and shift yt minus t naught is equal to sine t minus t naught x t minus t naught. So you can see that these are not equal. So therefore, this modulator is not time invariant. Okay, then the other important property is linearity. Now consider a system where x1t gives y1t, x2t gives y2t. If you give the system, now this is that system, so you give it xt, it produces yt, and if you give a linear combination of these inputs, a x1t and b y2t, the system must produce the same linear combination with these same constants multiplying y1t and y2t. If the system is linear, if we give a linear combination of inputs, the output will also be a similar linear combination of the original inputs. Now let's consider an audio amplifier, for example. So to this audio amplifier, you give a small signal and it gives an amplified signal. So if you have two signals added to that, so the other two outputs will be added to that. So what this means is the amplifier is operating in its linear range. But you know that if you give a combination of huge number of inputs, so many inputs, so many instruments, then at some point your output may get distorted. So clipped. So therefore in that range the amplifier is not linear. So you can see the linear combination of inputs did not lead to the same linear combination of outputs that would have been given if we gave the individual inputs. Okay, now when we combine the linearity and time invariance, we have the linear time invariant systems. Systems that are both linear and time invariant are called linear time invariant systems. With systems that are linear and time invariant using the impulse function in continuous time, so we represent that using ht, you will see that later, and in discrete time hn, produces an important and useful mechanism for characterizing those systems. In this lecture, we will develop in detail the representation of both continuous time and discrete time signals as a linear combination of delayed impulses. So you will see later, using delayed impulses, we will develop this concept of convolution and the consequence of representing linear time invariant systems. The resulting representation is referred to as convolution. So next time we will look at convolution. Thank you.